Okay. Live, okay. It is a privilege to be here, and I mean that from the center of my heart. You know, it really warms my heart because it brings back some memories. Elaine must be here with us. I can't imagine her not being here. Let's put it another way. I used to say this quite often, and it just dawned on me that I might be giving credit where credit is, I don't want to say not due, but maybe only 50% due. And let me share why I say that. When we pick up the stone and put it in the bowl and share a joy or a concern, for some reason I had a flood of memories when Mark and Elaine were the proprietors of the Crystal Cove way back when, a couple 12 years ago. and the funny part was, I went in there one day, I had $1 burning a hole in my pocket and I wanted to spend it. And I pick up a bag of, basically there's no other word I can use, a bag of rocks. And of course they were pretty rocks, they had multicolors, pastels and so forth. But you could tell they're just plain flat rocks. And on it was in a plastic bag, and on it was a paper fold over, and it said very plainly and very honestly, and I've always given Mark the credit for it, but that's why I say it might have been Elaine or it might have been a collaboration. It was Mark, okay, credit where credit's due. He said, if you believe these rocks work, or you believe these rocks don't work, you're right. Because I understood very quickly at that time that Mark truly understood the power of metaphysics. And I've never forgotten that, and that brought back memories. You know, people have brought to our attention that indeed this coming week we will be celebrating Thanksgiving. I've heard other people have kind of reframed it in their own context as well. I've heard the term, which I think is lovely, Friendsgiving. And just, there's a lot of other different things, but those are the two, of course, that speak to me first and foremost, because I was raised in the consciousness, if you will, of Thanksgiving. And we're going to, it's the one day of the year where we are strongly encouraged by anybody and everybody to have what is called an attitude of gratitude. Meister Eckhart, famous Catholic monk, who I believe was very active, I want to say in the latter 1400s. Please don't quote me on that. Sometimes I get a little off on my time frames here, but Meister Eckhart was a heretic. And would have been considered even an anathema by the church. But his teachings and his presence were so powerful, they dare not kill him. He could not be burned at the stake. The outrage would have risen, as it were, to the heavens. And he said, if the only prayer you ever pray is thank you, it is prayer enough. And so this Thanksgiving, I'll be gathering with family, as has been our custom now in my household now it's been 26 years, I'm deeply grateful to say. And what will happen is everybody will revert and completely rewrite the laws of evolution, because they're not going to behave like anything else but a bunch of hungry buzzards. And I will carve a leg off the turkey and enjoy that. I will take the other leg, and because I'm the only member of the family that does enjoy dark meat, I will take out the plastic bag that I carry upon my person for just such occasions, place the other leg in the bag and in my pocket for later. And then I will do something that they've probably never really understood, but because they put up with me, they know to leave me alone. I will probably, while they're flicking on the football game and chasing, kids around and all the rest of it, they will watch me kind of just withdraw. And It's not a withdrawal of any kind of depression or angst or anything like that. But I just at that point, once we've had the family time, I take the time to withdraw maybe to the backyard or another room in the house and spend a quiet maybe 15 or 20 minutes in reflection. And I don't think whether I'm just telling you the way I do it. I'm sure if not all of you, then at least the majority of you might do the same thing. We reflect on what has been mentioned. And today's introduction was, I thought when I'd heard it, I said, I can go home. You don't need me. This says it all. It was really, it said it all. I mean it. But the reflection on those who don't have enough, the reflection of the rejected, the misunderstood, and those who are being unrighteously treated and not only they may feel forgotten, but they may feel fearful, and in some cases, in many cases, for their very lives. Of course, you'd have to live under a rock to not comprehend the horror of what's occurring in Ukraine still, and the unbelievable occurrences and events in the Middle East. And yet, what I find, and I'll use this as an example, is many of us who are clergy, especially, and I'll draw this distinction, liberal clergy. And I'm liberal. I'm the Swiss Army knife of 3 separate religious traditions. I don't know how that happened, but it did. And I'm grateful because it teaches me that, if you want to call it God, Holy Spirit, has a really ribald sense of humor, but also that I'm being taught personally a very important lesson. And in learning that lesson, I hope to exemplify and model a consciousness that was talked about in the introduction, a consciousness of unity, a consciousness of not worrying about separation, but by affirming the unity of the human family. And as I've said it once, I've said it 100 times, because it is kind of the unofficial motto of the United Church of Religious Science. We are working for a world that works for everybody. And if I can be like Marianne Williamson, because she always adds a little addendum to her prayers, it's like, I'm in the right place at the right time, moving toward my true place, and something better. Well, here we are. We want to make a world that works for everybody, no exceptions. Not one. Not one. And I talk to other liberal clergy, and we talk about the future. And you folks know this. We know this intimately at this point in our life experience. It's difficult to talk about the future. Some people, I quote even back to that late, great religious leader, philosopher, genius, George Carlin. He understood. He understood, and he basically was saying that humanity, that which we call the human family, there's no way to put it because George put it best. Oh, thank you. We're circling the drain. That's how it looks. And God knows I say that. God knows. That's certainly how it feels. So I deal with other members of my, if you will, profession. And sometimes we literally say to each other, I don't know what else to say. I'm supposed to be inspiring. I'm supposed to be uplifting. I'm supposed to give hope for a future. And it doesn't feel like that. It really doesn't feel like that. And it is reaching, or it feels, here's the thing, it feels as though it's reaching kind of a critical mass. And to that end, it's pretty scary. You've seen that commercial on TV years ago where the two people bump into each other and one fella's eating a Hershey chocolate bar and the other guy's eating a Jif or Skippy jar of peanut butter, and they crash into each other, and the candy bar goes into the peanut butter, and the guy says, "You've got your candy bar in my peanut butter." "Well, you've got your peanut butter on my candy." Well, we're having the same problem, okay? Here's what now this is, by the way, I don't mean to imply that I ever tell you stories that aren't true. That's why I have to be careful. This is a true story. This is a scary true story. I recently became aware, because I'm on a bunch of different list sites and I get all kinds of data and information and so forth, that a number of fundamentalist Christian clergy are deeply concerned about the direction of Christendom. Excuse me. And the reason they're concerned, and at first I thought this was a joke, and I researched it. What I'm about to tell you is no joke. Minister was preaching, and he got up and he preached from the Gospel of Matthew. What did he preach? Jesus' own words. Let me say it again. Jesus, his own words, the Beatitudes. Other than the Lord's Prayer, one of the most powerful, uplifting, and encouraging teaching that this guru from Galilee gave us. They said, not one minister said, but a bunch of, I say a bunch, a number of them, enough to be noticed and to draw such concern amongst them, was he actually had members of their congregation come up to them and say, "Where did you get those prayers?" And they said, "Well, look," and he opened it up, "Matthew, it's the Lord's words." He goes, No, they can't be the Lord's words. What left-wing source did you use? Now, at first, I'm like, hardy, har, and then it hit me. They were being, I don't think I'm being too dramatic here, dead serious. And that's what leads to dead. I've said this many times. Terrible or ignorant theology always leads to horrifying psychology, which turns into brutality. And yet, I ask in my prayer life, when I speak to that infinite intelligence, that foundation of being, that sourceless source, that giver of all good gifts, and I say, probably in the same anxiety and in the same fear that perhaps a Jesus had or a Buddha may have had, what's happening? Where is this heading? And even when I am in the midst of, at times, coming in tune with those that we have called, those of us who have walked the spiritualist path, guides, teachers. In the Catholic Church, they're called saints. I'm really understanding that the vernacular is getting way less important. And what's more important is the message. And I keep getting the same thing coming back to me in my meditations. The same thing. And it's the same thing Winston Churchill said when they were bombing England into a pancake. And he just kept telling his people, keep calm and carry on. Keep calm and carry on. He also said, which I've always appreciated because he had a wicked sense of humor, Winston Churchill said, if you believe you're going through hell, keep going. Keep going. And that always brings me to a reflection that no matter how bad it looks, no matter how bad it feels, no matter how out of control to the point where we actually fear for our own safety and the safety of our loved ones and the safety of our brothers and sisters around the world, that we must do what in Scripture we must look beyond the appearance and judge righteously. What is to judge righteously? To judge righteously simply means what we in religious science call right thinking. And what does that mean? An attitude of gratitude. Don't be ungrateful for the stuff you think you should have, but don't. Be grateful for what you have, because gratitude always makes what you have, it's a very important lesson, enough. Gratitude always makes what you have enough. Not only an attitude of gratitude, but a sincere expectation of good in spite of any appearance. We are taught by philosophers as well as theologians that we are fundamentally, and I think it was Descartes who said this, I'm reasonably certain it was Descartes. It could have been Walt Disney, but I'm going to go with Descartes. You are a spiritual being who has chosen to have a physical experience. There are things for us here to learn. We don't know in many, if not almost all instances, what those, quote, things that we are here to learn. And whether you accept the concept of the reincarnationist or not. As the Reverend Terry Cole Whitaker once said, when asked how she felt about the afterlife, she says, well, I don't know about reincarnation and I don't even know about the afterlife, but I know that I'm here right now, so I've got to accept that this is the life I've been dying to live. Eckhart Tolle hasn't been around all that long. What is his gospel? What is his good news? Stay centered. Don't worry about what happened before. Okay? It's the worst words in the human language. Well, we've never done it like that before. Okay? Or don't worry about the future. You've heard me say this before. In our humanity, we are tortured by our past, tantalized by our future, and confounded in our present. What if we were to take the attitude of a God? You know, there was a while ago, the kids had this thing where they had, what would Jesus do? And before they engaged in any behavior, they would think, my gosh, what would Jesus do in this situation? And I hope that his example, his modeling of his behavior while he was on the earth plane, taught them to do something more positive and balanced and so forth. Can we do any different? And whether it be you are motivated or inspired, whether it be by a Jesus or a Buddha, act as if you are that embodiment. Embody those qualities. The Dalai Lama says, kindness is my religion. I even goes further. I mean, I love we have a bumper sticker mentality, and so everything comes down to 1 to 2 sentences. But if you read everything he said is, you don't need temples, you don't need scripture, you don't need this. All of the trimmings and trappings that we use, okay? Just follow the simple things. Loving kindness, empathy. This notion of doing unto others as you would have them do unto you is not original to Jesus of Nazareth. It comes from his religion, Judaism, which comes even further back and in various other parts of the world manifest as Hinduism and Buddhism and so forth. We are reaching a time where we don't have the time to engage in a lot of blithering and blathering about what separates us. We have got to come together and say what unites us. Spiritualism has always proclaimed that. Always. There has never been the distinction. That's one of the things that hurts me in my heart, that this has been so misrepresented, so misunderstood, and in some cases, please forgive me, but I'm going to say it, used and abused by its own devotees, that the bigger message, that what's in those declaration of principles and those definitions has been obscured. But the point is simple. We're all going to leave this world at one point. And we're going to go into the next world, if you will. And we're going to have to look and do what in near-death experiences is simply called a life review. And it's already been reflected by religions and other, and that life review is going to be very simple. And it's in its most simplistic form, you could say, have you loved, and how well have you loved? And whether you're a Buddhist, a Christian, an atheist, an agnostic, anything and everything, as long as you understand that the only power that truly exists, that is able to completely, undeniably change everything almost in the blink of an eye, is our ability to love ourselves and then to love each other. And to that end, whether rockets are flying over my house, or whether I don't have enough to eat, or whatever is occurring to my physicality at that moment, I need to continue to go back to the only time I know, the eternal now. And that says that no matter what, I never give up, I never surrender, and I never give in. That whatever situation I experience in my thoughts, my words, and my deeds must always be gilded in the healing power of love, in the unifying power of love. It is not hard to be a Swiss Army knife. It is not hard for me, because I can take anything now, and I don't know where this comes from, because if you knew me back in the old days, was a very different man. But now I understand on a deeper level that John Lennon was right. I would rather imagine there be no religion. I'd rather imagine there be no politics the way they're manifesting. I mean, it's like, you've got your religion in my politics. You've got your politics in my religion. And there we go again. And yet at the end of the day, I use this interesting example that I will try to close with. I know, you wanted 15 minutes. How does it feel to want? I don't do well at that, I'm sorry. I love watching these. I'm a sci-fi buff. I mean, I watch Star Trek and all this other stuff. And the one thing I always loved to watch, and one of my favorite, was not the new one with Keanu Reeves, though I am a big Keanu Reeves fan. I watch with Gene Barry, and that was not The Day the Earth Stood Still. That was with Michael Rennie. Oh, good. Well, never mind the title. But the point of the movie was, Mars was coming, and it was coming in droves. Everything was lost. Life on Earth was worth that much. It was over. Well, the rest of the story, that eventually things turned around and humanity was saved, because nobody wants a bad ending to a movie or a book. But the point was that more often than not, like in the movie version, what happened or at least one of the versions, is they understood as a collective human family the threat to their situation. And they needed to look beyond the appearance. They needed to look beyond the differences. They need to look beyond those things that had separated them for probably thousands and thousands of years. And you saw Israeli pilots with Arab pilots. And you saw, people from China with Americans and so forth, all get together to deal with this common enemy. Well, I'm not interested in identifying a common enemy. But if we're going to attack a common enemy, let's attack that common enemy of a lack of empathy. Let's attack that common enemy of a lack of love. Let's attack that common enemy that says the other is over there and we've got to be afraid of the other. And let's maybe learn. There's a thing in the Facebook, the guy said, with all the things we've done and this, that, and the other thing, maybe we should. That's not worked very well, has it? Maybe we should try this thing called love. So let's see how that works out. The gospel of spiritualism has always proclaimed that. Ernest Holmes proclaiming religious science, New Thought, the science of mind. It's the fundamental foundation. And anything I do now representing the Unitarian Universalist Church, is born on the foundation that compassion and social justice is what we stand on and what we will, in a sense, I don't mean this in any concept of physical or emotional violence, but what we fight for, what we speak truth to power, what we strive to encourage and inspire people to come together rather than come apart. That's what it's all about. Now, you as individuals, you might say, I'm only one person. Margaret Mead said the only thing that has ever changed humanity, the only thing that's ever changed anything for the good, is a group of small little, I'm paraphrasing, forgive me, a group of small, feisty little people who have made a decision to do some good. That's what worked then, and no matter how big the challenge may appear to be today, we center, as Eckhart Tolle says, and we keep going through hell. And we keep going and going and going. Will we live to see the goal? My dear friends, I'm going to tell you point blank, I don't expect I will. Maybe you will. But I will tell you this. I do not want to go into the spirit side of life knowing that I hadn't given 100% in the effort, because that's one of the main reasons we're here. To be unified, and I want to remember and leave as a legacy that in my lifetime I wanted to see a world that worked for everyone, no exceptions. And maybe 20 generations from now, whatever the case may be, as Doris Day sings, Que sera, sera, that will be realized in the physical world. It took, I use this as a final example, Susan B. Anthony. She never gave up. She never gave in. She never surrendered. The love in her heart for her sisters and for the injustice that was occurring to women and the injustice that manifests itself as a result of that kept her fire burning until the day she crossed into the spirit side of life. And I believe on the day that women did indeed get the vote, something she never physically lived to see, we know she was in spirit, hopefully having a shot and a beer, enjoying what the heck had happened finally. Because time, as we know, does not exist. So, before they start throwing rocks, those rocks, I will leave you with this. Whether you're celebrating your Thanksgiving Day or your Friendsgiving Day with a turkey, don't remember, and you got to remember, like the American Indians, the Native Americans, bless the Boyd, say thank you for giving your life so that I may live longer. Whether you're celebrating Thanksgiving with a turkey or a tofu, be grateful. Recommit, spend a little time in your meditation, in your prayer to commit yourself to a world that works for everyone, because you're an integral part of that team. Bless you.